Greetings, this is David Daoud, Principal Analyst at Compliance Standards LLC, and this is our 8th IntelliTAD roundup on the ITAD and circular materials and metal recovery sectors for the week ending October the 1st, 2025. This week in IntelliTAD, we're focusing on actually two of the most consequential developments shaping the industry today: California's sweeping new climate disclosure regime and Aurubis' launch of an $800 million recycling facility in Richmond, Georgia. While the week was generally quiet, these events are structural signals that, as far as we're concerned, will define how IT asset disposition, resource recovery, and corporate sustainability are organized for the years to come. To make sense of them, we're drawing on two new pieces of research we've just published at Compliance Standards, and we'll also share a preview of our upcoming third report. Let's begin with California. Our recently released report called California's Climate Disclosure Laws, the New Compliance Baseline, breaks down the impact of Senate Bill 253 and 261. More than 4,000 corporations, including Fortune 500 leaders and foreign multinationals, now face mandatory reporting of climate risk and greenhouse gas emissions, that is scopes 1 and 2, and most importantly, scope 3. For CIOs and sustainability officers, what does that mean? It means that this changes sort of the calculus. Your supplier's emissions data is now officially required by law, enforceable through the California Air Resources Board. If you're an ITAD CEO, these laws will push your compliance requirements even further. Chain of custody documentation, traceable recovery rates, and of course, auditable carbon matrix have now become compliance deliverables your customers must collect if they want to keep operating in California. So because of that, ITAD is no longer your classic ITAD operations that we've known for the past 20 years. In fact, these laws turn ITAD into a compliance critical service function deeply tied to how enterprises meet their new legal obligations. Now let's go to Richmond, Georgia, where German firm Aurubis AG has begun production at its first US multimetal recycling facility, a project we flagged in our report called IT Hardware, the New Era of Resource Recovery and Critical Mineral Access. Built at a cost of roughly $800 million, Richmond is capable of processing 180,000 metric tons of scrap annually, recovering such important things as copper, nickel, tin, and obviously precious metals from very complex streams like circuit boards and cables. If you are in the business of metal recovery and mining, the so-called urban mining, this development is evidence, of course, that secondary supply has moved front and center to meet America's rising demands for industrial metals. US copper demand alone is expected to increase by 30% in the next 5 years, and Richmond positions Aurubis as a structural player in that equation. So for ITAD operators, the facility represents a potential new downstream option, one that could eventually provide stable, compliant domestic refining capacity for high-value streams. At present, there are no public contracts linking Aurubis to ITAD providers, as far as I'm aware. But strategically, though, those who can position themselves as reliable suppliers to Richmond or similar facilities will obviously strengthen both their margins and their sustainability narrative. Now, taken together, California's disclosure regime and Aurubis' new US site, to me, both sort of highlight the same theme, right? ITAD version 3.0 is graduating to become an integral component of the regulatory compliance and industrial supply chains. As such, the sector's leaders should recognize that their value proposition now extend into legal risk management for clients. Mining and metals recovery businesses must also accept that ITAD feedstock is rather a strategic input. And of course, if you are a CIO or a sustainability officer in a large corporation, you will obviously have to elevate ITAD partners into core compliance discussions rather than treating them as transactional vendors, as you've been doing for the past 20 years. Now, looking ahead, we will expand on this shift in our next research release titled Active Capital in Sustainability and ITAD, from Passive Finance to Operational Ownership, but now scheduled for publication this month of October. This study explores how private equity and infrastructure investors are shifting from being passive financiers to active participants. Closed-loop partners, EQT, Encore, Brookfield, and others are embedding themselves directly into operations, reshaping the companies that they're buying into infrastructure-grade platforms. For executives across the sector, that means equity partners will no longer remain sidelined and content to sit in the background. They will expect to help design compliant frameworks, professionalize management, and obviously drive growth strategies. So we're seeing growing interest in the sector. And if you are an ITAD CEO looking for investors, the general emerging capital landscape is that valuation will follow the operational execution, not necessarily just resale margins or regional footprints as we've been used to. So the events of the past week and the research we have been conducting all point to long-term forces that are reshaping the ground beneath the sector. California embedding sustainability compliance into law, Aurubis bringing global scale refining capacity into the US, investors preparing to run ITAD firms as infrastructure businesses. Now, whether you are running an ITAD operation, or operating a smelter, or managing an enterprise IT, you need to absorb the implications quickly. Compliance, resource recovery, capital discipline are all converging into a sort of a single operating environment. And the question that you and your team must be asking is how soon you'll be able to adapt to these changes. And on that note, I want to extend an invitation. On October the 16th, 2025, that is 2 weeks from now, I'll be hosting a live executive briefing titled Unlocking Opportunities Amid Disruptions. This 60-minute Zoom session will dig deeper into the themes I've been discussing today. If you already have an account on our website, you can just log in to register directly. If not, although seats are limited, registration is free for now and open for you to do so. Just head to compliancestandards.com for the details. And I look forward to seeing many of you there as we continue to chart the path towards what I would call ITAD 3.0 and the future of circular IT. Thank you.